Hi, my name's Scott Weiland, and welcome to South Detroit Sound House.
Hey all, welcome back. South Detroit Soundhouse. My name is Randy Falsetta. We're in the heart of the Motor City, the Hard Rock Cafe in downtown Detroit, Michigan. We have with us the illustrious Scott Weiland. Welcome, Scott.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. You've been in the business for many years now. Do you still love making music?
I love it. It's my favorite thing to do.
What's your favorite part about making music these days? Is it the songwriting? Is it performing? Is it touring?
It's the songwriting, the production of the music, the arrangement of the music, the making records. That's still my favorite part of it, even though it doesn't matter as much. As far as sales, it's still my favorite part. It's the art of it.
Yeah, being an artist, I could understand that because you are a true artist. You've been around for many years. So this is really kind of the third phase in your musical career. It was Stone Temple Pilots, then it was Revolver, and now it's the Widabouts. So can you tell us, does it feel like the third major kind of part of your musical career?
Yeah, actually the fourth, because there was the phase where I was making solo albums as well.
Right. That was kind of a shorter period, right? That was your shortest period?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel that these days that there is longevity in bands, and how do you feel about maybe the Widabouts having that longevity today? Do you feel that that's like a possibility?
I feel like it's a definite possibility. We're growing as things are moving along, and things are only getting bigger and better, and we're getting tighter as a band, and we're building our fan base and kind of starting over from scratch.
This is kind of the first time that actually your name has been included in the name of the act. So it's always been, like I said, Stone Temple Pilots or Revolver. Now it's Scott Weiland and the Widabouts. So why the inclusion of your name this time around?
I just felt that I was at that point where, it was kind of like Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers.
Mm-hmm.
Tom Petty was a heartbreaker, but it was his band. This is my band. I'm a Wildabout, but
Mm-hmm.
my name comes before the band.
That is true. Well, you deserve it, right?
I would think so at this point.
Yeah. Now, where did the Widabouts come from? I think there's a funny story that people would love to know about where that name actually came from.
It came from the Donovan song, Mellow Yellow. I'm just wild about Saffron. She's just wild about me.
Can you tell us about the new album, Blaster? It's first of all, a great cover, and I've heard a couple tracks off it. And can you just talk about some of the music on there and how you kind of came about writing and arranging the music to it?
Most of the songs were written by myself and my guitar player who passed away, Jeremy Brown. We collaborated on the majority of the songs, and then we would work on the songs as a band and hone them and write together the rest of the song, because he'd come in with a rough idea and like a riff, like the Mozilla riff, for instance. Mm-hmm. And then we would, someone would come up with a bridge or a chorus, and we'd really work on it as a band, so it's a real band album.
Mm-hmm. Do you like the band collaboration better than, or I should not maybe better than, but on what level do you compare the band experience as to the solo experience of writing an album?
It's different. I like the band experience. I like that collaboration between players. It's a beautiful thing. But I also like making solo albums because I get to experiment. It's like throwing things against the wall to see what sticks, just different soundscapes, experimenting with different instruments and just layering sounds and then pulling things back, to see what works and what doesn't. But those are more art records.
Well, I listened to Parachute and 20th Century Boy, and those were kind of gritty rock songs, and it's great that's still relevant in your music, that kind of gritty sound again, where kind of reflective of your earlier stuff. But it's do you find that rock sound is still relevant today?
Yeah, because we went for a more modern, kind of postmodern sound, a kind of retro modern, I'd say, is a better way of saying it. We went for a real, instead of a big Marshall stack kind of guitar sound, we went for fuzz box, bass microsynthesizer on the guitar mixed with fuzz to give it a real, just interesting guitar tone, and used a lot of surfy sounds as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you enjoyed the process this time around. Did you enjoy it more than other times? Is there anything that...
Yeah, I enjoyed making this record more than any other since making Core.
That's a big statement.
Yeah.
How do you feel about releasing material in an industry that seems to be kind of crumbling? I've heard you speak about this in other interviews, but with the internet and such, and people downloading illegally, how do you feel as an artist releasing music from your heart that you've created over time, and you're releasing it, and you don't know what's going to happen to it? How do you feel about today's market appreciating and buying your music?
I think it's depressing. I think that hip hop and country, you could still sell actual CDs and make money at making and selling records, but with rock and roll, it's very much the young people are very savvy with computers and know how to finagle their way around not having to buy CDs anymore. They're not into CDs anymore. They are more into buying vinyl, though. Vinyl's having a big comeback.
That's what I heard. Yeah. Is it also a fact that yourself and your musician colleagues, do you have to pour yourself more into touring to make up for that loss in revenue from record sales? Is there more time spent on the road now these days?
Yeah, definitely. You have to spend a lot of time on the road to make up for the loss of income of selling records.
And how do you feel about being on the road that much these days?
I'm not as keen with it as I was when I was in my 20s, especially being happily married and not being able to see my kids and my stepson as much. My wife comes out and visits me on the road for a week or two at a time, but this is a long tour. It's a 9-week tour, and so I'm missing her a lot.
Are you busy in the 2016 year, or is it just going to continue after the end of December, the tour?
Yeah, it'll continue. But we're also going to make a new record as well.
That's great news. I heard you on the Howard Stern show, the interview, if you remember that, a little while back, and you had mentioned that there was that time that you wish that you had off back, or that you did have back in the day when you didn't or weren't on the road as much, and you could do other things such as take more time, in writing and stuff like that, and then even just work on or get into some of your hobbies. What are some of those things that were back then and maybe today that you would love to work on if you had more time not touring?
Surfing.
Okay.
Yeah, and producing other bands.
Can you tell us about surfing? When did you get into that?
When I was about 13 years old.
Wow. And you've kept it up ever since.
Yeah, I don't get to surf that much anymore, and I don't like surfing in cold water. I used to go to Hawaii quite often and go surfing and surf in the summer. I still wear a wetsuit when I surf in the summer in Southern California because the water is the climate's changed and the water is still kind of frigid.
Was there something also about horseback riding or honing horses? I think you may have a horse and you wanted to purchase another one. Is that something that you're
I
passionate
had a
about?
horse for a while, yeah, with my first wife, and she used to compete in equestrian, and I used to go riding with her, and I was thinking for a while about getting another horse.
What's a perfect day in the life of Scott Weiland these days, today?
Laying in bed with my wife, naked.
Is that right?
That and bass fishing.
So is it like a John and Yoko kind of a day, like the whole day just lying in bed?
Yeah.
That sounds pretty good to me too. And what's a day that's a struggle for you? What would a day where you would struggle be?
Being bored at home, not having any music to do, just watching TV. I get bored doing that.
And what are your thoughts on dealing with the music business these days? Is it more challenging than it was back in the 80s, the 90s, the early 2000s? Is it more challenging to work in the business these days?
It's way, way harder. I mean, we used to have marketing budgets of a couple $1 million, and now it's like $75,000. And then you have people that rip off part of your marketing budget and use it for, they abscond it, and and then your label's like, where did that money go to? And I have no idea, because you trust certain people to be honest, and they're not.
That's true. That's so true. Can we talk about your book a little bit?
Sure.
You being a novelist now. The book was Not Dead, Not for Sale, and it was, from what I understand, there was some really touching points in there about your life, some difficulties, some struggles, some great things. What was it that kind of made you want to release a memoir of your life?
There was a certain interview that I did that was a as told by piece with Esquire magazine, and it was supposed to be as told by me, and it was misflavored completely. A lot of people loved the piece, but it wasn't in my words. So I decided I wanted to write a book in my words and tell people my story as told by me.
And so do you feel you've done that? Is that an accomplishment? Is that something that was done by putting this book out? Are you happy with the result of it?
Yeah.
And what does it do for you now, having it out there in the public? Do you feel that the public has understood you better by having that book out?
Yeah, definitely. But I think that there are some people that think that it was because my ex-wife put a book out as well, and she put a slam book out against me, that thought that that it was a tit for tat book. It wasn't at all. My parts that I wrote about her were just a small part in the book. I wrote a lot about my childhood life. I wrote a lot about my relationships between my stepfather and my mother, my biological father, and the dichotomy with that, and my mother, and how I dealt with that as a child, as well as a lot of more personal things that happened to me when I was a kid. So, yeah, it was a very honest portrayal of me.
Well, it's great that you release it. It's cathartic in a way. It gives you, that outlet to express yourself. There was I think a mention of the two brothers, one a stepbrother and one your actual brother, can we say, that had passed. And is that something that still kind of resonates in your thoughts these days? I mean, I know it's hard to forget family members, but is that something that's always in the back of your mind?
Yeah, especially when things like what happened just yesterday in France.
Absolutely.
In Paris by ISIS, and I think about people losing family members. I think about my own losses that I've endured in my life, and my heart goes out to those people who have had recent losses, and I know how sharp and poignant those losses are, especially when they're so raw and so new.
Can we talk a little bit about just your relationship with your past mates in Stone Temple Pilots and Velvet Revolver? Do you still keep in contact? Are your relationships with them solid still? Are they considered friends?
I'm still friendly with the guys in Velvet Revolver. It's still too... I don't have any negative feelings towards the guys in STP. We settled our suit, and I was content with that. And as far as, I know your next question is going to be, do you think that you'll ever get back together with any of those bands? And my answer is, you never know what'll happen in rock and roll.
It's true. It's unpredictable.
Yep. I'm content with what I'm doing with my bands right now.
What do you think the thing is in your life, if we could talk about from the day you were born till today? What's the one thing that you're most proud of? Is it your family? Is it your career? What is it? What is it that you're most proud of?
It's a twofold question. I'd have to say winning 2 Grammys, and that's just getting the accolades from your own musical community. Probably 3, though. Also getting signed, because that means you're acknowledged as a legitimate artist. Yeah. And the days that my kids were born, and marrying my wife, Jamie.
That's awesome. We don't want to take up any more of your time, so we're going to ask you one final question. What do you see with Scott Weiland and the Widabouts in the future? Is there just a long, long career? Are we expecting a lot more material out of you? There's concerts to come. What is it?
A lot more material, concerts to come, rocking out with these guys. I love these guys. Blackie's my best friend. These guys are my tightest friends, and they're the guys that I have over, that my wife invites over for my birthday party for brunch, and she cooks a mean-ass brunch. And yeah, doing that, and you never know. There could be a revival of either STP or VR in the future. Rock never tells.
Great way to end the show. Anyway, Scott, we want to thank you so much for coming out and joining us for this great interview. And
Thank you.
it's been an honor. He's a rock and roll legend, everybody. This is Randy Falsetta signing out. We'll see you on our next chat on South Detroit Soundhouse. That's a wrap.